Hello, welcome in. Boy, some stuff happened this weekend, didn't it? Didn't it? Let's talk about it. College football playoff is set. Conference championship weekend was a bit of a snooze, if we're being honest. And chaos is unraveling like a awkward situation in a retail store while some child in the aisle next to you is having a temper tantrum and you need to go down that aisle, but want to avoid them for as long as you can till you really need to go grab that soup that you need. Big stuff this weekend. A lot of conversations were had on this podcast that ended up coming true. So where do we start? Do we start with the games? Do we start with the reaction? You know what, let's start with the college football final bracket. So it's set. College football, let's see, 12-team playoff. You got your 1 seed Indiana, 2 seed Ohio State, 3 seed Georgia, 4 seed Texas, all with your buys. Ohio State playing on New Year's Eve. The other 3 playing stacked up on New Year's Day. Interesting. 5, 6, 7, no surprises. 8, no surprise. Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma in that order. Alabama stays at 9. We're going to stop there and talk about that in a little bit. And then, of course, Duke winning puts JMU at 12. Tulane goes to 11. And chaos ensues. The graphic reveals on ESPN green and orange, not green and gold. Miami, the U, is in, going to College Station, and Notre Dame is on the sideline. Listen, Notre Dame has put up a valiant effort when it comes to the marketing and PR and standpoint of their entire season, right? You know, they could say they checked the box of scheduling P4 schools from all across. Purdue, Big Ten. Any bottom dwelling ACC, check. Did they have a Big 12 in there? I don't think so. And then the 2 teams that mattered, they lost to. Now, you could say USC, good win. Say that's a team that's exceeded expectations this year, as we saw with their win totals. And it's a solid win, but is it a championship win? I don't really see it that way. So when we look at Notre Dame being excluded, you know, one thing is really coming to fruition here. It's getting brought up by people in every aspect. Participation trophies. Tulane and JMU don't belong. Really? Really? Why do we have 2 G5 schools then? Why? Because there was no foresight or guardrails in this money grab of expanding the conferences to a number that would have uh, just fraction of overlap of what it once was. You split up the divisions to just one big conference now. So now there can't even be lopsided conference championships where at least all the teams played each other on each side. So this woe is me, let's yell at the little guys in the room. You can fuck right off with that. Because JMU did nothing but win. That Louisville team that beat Miami, JMU took them to the buzzer, and it was a defensive matchup. JMU is going to surprise some people. They're not going to win. I'm not going to go that far. But with how physical their defense can play, I think that's what's going to be a big takeaway in that Oregon game. But back on track here. The ACC had 5 teams tied for second, and they didn't have the foresight to say, well, maybe having the highest ranked college football playoff team would be the most beneficial to our conference in case this exact scenario happens. And by whatever mathematical reasoning, a 5-loss team gets in to your conference championship game, and that 5-loss team is somehow only a 2-point dog and they win outright. That's why we have 2 G5s, and that's why it's totally fine. Because everyone's screaming, we just want a little bit of transparency. Here's the most transparent facts that we need to fall back on. 5 auto bids. 5. This is a 12-team playoff. That leaves 7. 7 at-large bids. You want to talk about Tulane and James Madison not belonging? They just did what they were told to do. They just played football, and the chips fell in their favor. So, by my math, we are arguing for the 8th, 9th, and 10th best at-large teams. That's why we're crying. The 7 best at-large teams qualified. And so now we're crying and wanting to burn down a whole system over the 8th, 9th, and 10th best teams in the respective country? I mean, just 2 years ago, we were fine with 4 teams. And 10 years before that, we just had 2. And now we're looking to blow up the sport because the 8th, 9th, and 10th best teams don't get a chance? Play better. Losing should hurt. And maybe it's because Notre Dame has this fetish with losing at the beginning of the season. It's just like some sort of freaky obsession. They just drop games at the beginning of the season and say, how far can we drop and build back up to start an argument to make people forget about August and September? Maybe Notre Dame should start scheduling like MAC games in November. Get their ACC out of the way up front. Didn't work for Miami, though, did it? So miss me with all that G5. This isn't a participation. That is already set in stone. Blame the ACC. Blame the conferences for this money-hungry cash grab of expansion without forethought of any sort of ramifications like this. Notre Dame crying and immediately opting out of a bowl that would have played BYU. Notre Dame is not what college football is. Like they never have been. The arrogance of a standalone conference. College football would not miss a blip of popularity if Notre Dame was banned from the FBS tomorrow. It would be a team that, we definitely want to see in the FBS. But this everything goes through Notre Dame shtick has to be eliminated from this outcome in this playoff cycle if we eliminate anything. There's rumors that they are going to, if they're in the top 12, they get an automatic playoff bid. Well, guess what? That doesn't fix that a committee is going to be able to rank your team. Think the committee won't see that and see a Notre Dame team on the 12-11 line and say, well, this actually isn't a playoff team. We're going to rank them 13th. Like, just thinking you're improving your school selfishly out of 135 other schools. It's just pathetic. Where are the adults in the room is what it comes down to. Could have played Vanderbilt. They offered to play conference championship weekend. Could have silenced everyone. Had a chance to control your own destiny. You didn't. Because it happened in August, just let that be a lesson. Play 12 games for a reason. All of them matter. And once the dust settles and all the tears are wiped away, the best lesson we can take from this is that losses should matter. Notre Dame's strength of schedule wins at a medium power ranking of 58, 59. Miami's median strength of schedule wins. Let's see, what did we land on there? 33rd. Average team or median team 33rd. Notre Dame's strength of wins 59th. This is ranking out of 136. Notre Dame lived off their losses the entire season. Should always be strength of wins. Your losses should never help you. And you say, why do we play those games? For the exact reason Miami got in. Winning should matter. You schedule tough teams because you expect them to be in the playoff hunt at the end. And having that win means that much more. So there's Notre Dame. As ugly as that is to say, let's move on to Alabama. I think I saw selection committee. This is the only team to never drop after a loss. I've got the box score pulled up in front of me here. They didn't just lose. So here's where we talk about Notre Dame in a positive light. After all that yelling, temper the mood down a little bit. And all the Notre Dame would beat XYZ. Look at them. I would have said you can miss me with all that. That's trash. This isn't a make-believe sport. But you want to talk about eye test. Alabama is not a good football team. They're not a playoff football team. I know the big stat of the weekend was -3 yards rushing. To consider that sack yards are rushing yards in college. So a little bit deceiving, but that would have only given them 31 yards rushing. Yikes. This was a beatdown physically from start to finish. The score only being 28-7 doesn't even begin to paint a picture. Alabama 3 of 14 on third downs, 1 of 3 on fourth down, 209 total yards. Now, Georgia didn't look the sharpest either coming out of the gate, but their defense certainly did. Offense continues to slack, getting less than 300 yards total offense. Now, I know you're looking to control the second half, which they did. 37 minutes time of possession to 23. That's domination. That's pure domination right there. And Georgia dominated where it hurt. Georgia had 7 penalties for 80 yards. Alabama had 1 penalty for 5 yards. So stat where you don't want to dominate, Georgia does. Alabama's odds are plummeting. This is the first 3-loss team in a 12-team in any playoff, should say. First 3-loss team. You say, well, we played a bonus game. Well, here we go again with the bloated conferences. Ole Miss 1 loss. Georgia, 1 loss. All in conference play. Alabama, 1 loss. Texas A&M, 1 loss. So the tiebreaker here and the lack of foresight to have the two best teams in your conference playing for a conference championship somehow cloaks Alabama from budging. Alabama has no business being in this. They get a draw that benefits them and a team they've already played, outgained by 200 yards. It's in Norman, could be snowing. That's not the point. Alabama has no business being in here. It should be Notre Dame and Miami. After eviscerating Notre Dame and just really, really not wanting to see them in postseason play, they're a better team than Alabama. To be honest, BYU is a better team than Alabama. Better wins. Can save that Georgia crap from earlier in the season versus their losses. I mean, can't harp on it enough. There can't be quality losses. That's not a thing. Because if you want to talk about quality losses, Alabama has the worst loss of any contending playoff team with a loss to Florida State. Games in August don't matter, right? So Alabama gets beaten down, belt to ass. Georgia looks good. Georgia doesn't budge. So we will monitor the Notre Dame fallout. We'll monitor if Alabama does anything with this. I predict no. But the system just needs the conferences to figure it out. Now, obviously, we've talked about this. The other solution, which it looks like we are headed straight on for a collision course in the offseason, is a 16-team playoff. One G5 bid, 15 teams. I think, and then the two rounds, two first rounds are higher seed hosting the home game. And if you want to keep conference championship weekend, you can. Winner guaranteed a home game. Can have guaranteed home slots there for the conference champion winners. G5 would obviously have to earn it being ranked in the top 8. But here's how it would break down. I mean, it's tough to argue that 16 doesn't seem like a fair enough number. Indiana versus James Madison. Texas A&M versus Miami. Texas A&M host. Texas Tech versus Texas in Lubbock. Oregon hosting Alabama in Eugene. Ohio State hosts Tulane. Ole Miss hosts Notre Dame. Georgia hosts Vanderbilt. Oklahoma hosts BYU. Teams looking out: Utah, USC, Michigan. None of those teams are playoff teams. 16 is a perfect amount. Get these teams at home too. The home playoff environment is the ultimate testament to college football. I mean, that's something that bowl season kind of tramples on. But the bowl games are exhibitions. The fans deserve, and alumni deserve, warm weather in the winter months. So I'm okay with this being the home games in the postseason. But this is what it looks like we're going to head towards, and it's tough to argue that this would not solve everything we're looking for. Just no matter how bad the Power Four are, they're just going to get in. So 16 seems like it could solve everything. All right, back to what we're dealing with. All the drama's out of the way. Only took 20 minutes to recap all the drama. We could talk about Miami, but we haven't seen them play since Pitt. Miami's deserving. think Notre Dame and Miami were deserving, but it came down to them decidedly being the last at-large team in. But Miami is going to be a problem for Texas A&M. And we'll just give a slight overview before we break that down on Wednesday, but they're going to be a problem. Big time problem. So that's going to be a good game. I expect Tulane's going to be frisky. The Bayou Jew is going to be frisky. And Oklahoma, Alabama is going to be close just because two horrid offenses. So I think 3 of 4 versus last year, all 4 were blowouts. At least it's shaping up for some decent matchups. And then the second round matchups are shaping up to be very electric. So from quarterfinals in, I think all the belly aching will subside. We land at Indiana hopping Ohio State, flip-flopping there. Georgia stays at 3 because, of course, Indiana beats Ohio State. Pretty fairly matched game here when we look at it. The teams traded interceptions in the first quarter. Saying once again, I don't know if it's the big game jitters or what. Interception on the first drive. Calms down after that. Mendoza intercepted. Both defensive lines showed up in the backfield a lot of the day. Ohio State in the last 2 full seasons, I believe, has accepted, and that's including playoffs last year, has accepted 4 holding penalties. So they've gotten the benefit of 4 holding penalties in 2 seasons. That's not a conspiracy guy, but that's just head scratching. Let's leave it at that. Head scratching. Anyway, that wasn't the reason they lost. Reason they lost, pretty tentative play calling, head scratching. I think Ohio State, obviously a lot of moving and shaking internally this week with Hartline accepting the job at USF. He's the play caller. There was rumors that Matt Patricia was being pursued by Penn State for head coaching. So, yeah, a lot of distractions, no excuses. It's not like this is a blowout. The game came down to a kicker missing a 27-yarder. Yikes. As someone that, as you all know, is a very big MAC proponent, and I see Miami of Ohio. Over the years, there's been some pretty good kickers come out of the MAC. I just cannot understand. Alabama always had this problem with Saban. Just getting kickers to these big schools is mind-blowing. Like, how you don't have just some, freak out of a lab, kicker ready to go. Probably the lowest overhead in NIL, benefits the most from, joining blue blood schools. No idea how these bigger schools struggle every year to get a reliable kicker. So that was interesting. For our Heisman ticket, it looked interesting. It looked like we were dead for a second, but it looks like all the books have pulled the Heisman odds. And good news for the Pavia camp. Seeing -110 for Pavia. Mendoza was -2,500 after this game. He was 15 for 23, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Listen, if the Ohio State kicker makes that and go to overtime and Ohio State wins, I don't think Sayin should have the award either. I think both of these quarterbacks did enough to help two studly defenses win a game. Like, and then you look at what Diego Pavia did for Vanderbilt. It's what you look for when you look at the list of Heisman winners. And it's not like the NFL where the best player on the best team gets the award. Like, the Heisman has shown that you can have 3 losses. You cannot be in the national title game and win the Heisman. And everything that the Heisman stands for is what Diego Pavia showed this season. Do we have a 125 to 1 ticket on him? Yes. You know what? Transparency is a virtue and a key. But if we're being unbiased, calling it down the middle, it's Diego Pavia, your Heisman winner after that Big Ten championship performance from both of those quarterbacks. Not going to do it. Not going to do it, especially with especially on Mendoza's side, where he only has 1 game to lean on. Oregon, because don't talk to me about Penn State if you want to put the tape on. We can put some tape on. And a guy that had 0 touchdowns going into the final drive, trailing to a skidding Penn State team, needs his wide receiver to pull down the greatest catch of the season on a poorly thrown ball. But I said we're not talking about that. We're not. So Indiana wins 13-10. I think it's a bad draw for them, to be honest. I think that flip could be what sets Ohio State up for a repeat. And you say, why do you say that? It looks like Ohio State might play some tough teams. Yes, they're all tough. But when you look at what Indiana would have to face potentially 3 weeks in a row, Ohio State defense in the Big Ten championship, potentially Oklahoma defense, and then looking at Texas Tech defense. Those are 3 of, if not the 3 most physical defenses you will see in the country. You know, throw Indiana in there too, but can't play themselves, can they? So 3 of the most physical defenses that Indiana could see would be all in a row. That's a lot, man. For for a team that saw Cooper get knocked out, we'll see how he is. Hopefully he's good to go. But Elijah Surratt showed that he could be shut down. And Ohio State's defensive line showed they could get pressure without blitzing. And that's what Oklahoma and Texas Tech can do as well. So I think their path to getting to the final for a potential rematch, Ohio State-Indiana, is a little tougher. I look at Miami and Texas A&M, 2 great programs. I just think they have flaws that can be exposed. And then down at the bottom, say if we just go chalk, I think Ohio State-Georgia is a very favorable matchup for Ohio State on a Georgia offense that just does not seem to have an identity right now. Now, Ole Miss would be interesting. A hot Ole Miss team just airing it out could have a similar archetype as what Ohio State did last year, but I don't think their defense, well, I know their defense is nowhere close to what Ohio State was putting out last year. So it's the path in the bracket. We'll break down the bracket and talk about the games individually. Want to make sure we can react, get that off the chest. Obviously, Oregon, yeah. Good draw getting JMU. I mean, what do people want? You want fucking Duke in there? Can't get over that. Or Virginia? Like, that would have been easier. They might have been the fucking 12 seed. They left, if you see. Oh, I forgot to include. Let's look at the final standings here. Just the interesting little bunch here. Oh. What the hell? Oh, there it is. All right. Producing and hosting. Guy does it all. All right, yeah. So you see, one of these things is not like the other. Alabama, 3 losses there. Oklahoma, 8. Alabama, 9. Miami, 10. Notre Dame, 11. BYU, 12. Texas, 13. Stays above Vanderbilt with an extra loss. Keep that in mind for next year. Head-to-head has to stop once the team has more losses. Like, Vanderbilt didn't lose to a 4-8 Florida. And then Utah and Southern Cal. Right below them, Michigan, Virginia, Tulane. So they kept Virginia in front of Tulane. You know, both would have made it anyway. But they did not budge. James Madison. It was an ugly game against Troy. Thought they might have lost, and they would have been, forced to put Duke in? Get Western Michigan in there? Kennesaw State? No. All right, rambling. So there it is. So what would that be? 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we got 7 SEC teams in the top 13, 14. That's got to change. None of them play each other. Ugh. BYU, valiant season. You just look like you didn't belong. I know that sucks to hear. But, yeah, I mean, Texas Tech's just that much better. So I don't think that's maybe that fair, considering Utah's sitting right there at 15, and BYU did their job to hammer Utah, while Notre Dame beat the team behind them. So it's interesting. Sorry, BYU. Wish we could have seen you play Notre Dame. So that's final rankings. Let's wrap that up. Let's just take a look at some of the games. Players to be aware of. Let's look at some strengths and weaknesses on the outside. And we'll talk spreads and bets on the next game. Let's just go right to Alabama. Team previews. Oklahoma hosting Alabama. Like I said earlier, look for snow in the forecast, maybe. Always a little weird with, a week or so out. Names you need to know on Oklahoma. Isaiah Satenga, leading wide receiver, Oklahoma. Guy's a freak. Breakout. He can score from anywhere. Taylor Ween and R. Mason Thomas, 2 of the stars on the defensive line. And R. Mason Thomas hasn't played a full season yet either. And they're just disruptors, man. These are 2 names you are going to see in this game disrupting like they did against Alabama earlier in the season. Particularly just a team that's not able to get the run going. Yeah, they throw the ball around a little bit, but it gets a little colder. It's going to get a little tighter. And let's see, first game. It was a little outgained by Alabama. It's just, are we going to get a fully rested Mateer? Obviously, these graphics are made to help you understand a few more people. And Oh, there he is. Yeah, Wayne had a sack. I don't think Thomas played in the first game. So, should be good. Strengths, stuff rate, rush D. Alabama already eliminates that for you. But if they're able to get pressure without bringing any extra help, again, 4 sacks in the first meeting, 5 tackles for a loss, and 1 defensive score in the first meeting. Look for that to be a problem. Alabama also fumbled 3 times, lost it twice. Kicking, obviously one of the best in the country. Eli Bowen, or not Bowen. What's his fucking name? Tate Swandell. Tate. And red zone scoring. Oklahoma, one of the only last teams left 100% red zone scoring. So they get down there, they're getting points. Number 1 in the country. Weakness, also Oklahoma can't really run the ball. It's really been a problem since Mateer's injury. And penalties, bottom 25 in the country in penalties. I know better teams can bounce back, but just don't need to be beating yourself. Alabama, again, we know the quarterbacks. We know Ryan Williams, so a couple names. Bray Hubbard, DB. Led the team in tackles in the first matchup. Jeremy Bernard has been a stud this season. 7 for 71 in the first matchup, but he's led the team in receiving. Listen, their strengths are going to be turnover margin. They turn you over more than they give it away. And the pass defense, lockdown. Been top 10 in the country in pass defense. So tough to get going against this team. Weakness, they can't run the ball. 4th down conversions allowed. One of the worst in the country. So extending drives. Alabama's going to beat itself up there. And then kicking. They've struggled with kicking. Like kicker missed the only attempt. Connor Talty, in the first match. So we'll see. Player profile of the A&M Miami. Yeah, obviously Casey Concepcion. Most people probably know him, but transfer, just an incredible wideout. And Cassius Howell on the defensive line. Led the SEC in sacks, 11.5 this season. So strengths, they can protect Reed, giving up one of the fewest sack clips in the entire country. And then they're going to be a havoc-creating team. So see how Beck is under pressure. But if you see here, you know, the 8-9 and the 7-10, these teams have a similar build-out. And so does so does that Oregon James Madison. Obviously talent disparity in that one, but when we look at like archetypes of teams, they kind of match up pretty well. It is pretty funny. This is the only 2 Notre Dame losses, just playing each other. So they will be able to say they at least lost to someone that won a playoff game. Good for them. Weakness penalties, another heavily penalized team. Turnover margin, they give it away more than they take it away. Not good. Then another poor field goal team, Texas A&M. One of the worst in the country. So needing some points in the tighter games here. A lot of these teams can't rely on their kicker. Miami, Malachi Toney, insane freshman, leading the team in receiving, all-purpose. This dude is insane. And then Akeem Mesidor, obviously Bain getting a lot of attention, but Mesidor, just a freak on the line. And then Jacoby Thomas leading the team in interceptions with 4. Like they can, they have a strength of creating havoc as well, and an explosive offense, obviously, with all that speed. Their weakness, coaching. Let's just be honest. They shouldn't even be in this position. Losing to 2 inferior opponents. turnovers, not having the ball, not having just not being ready. Not ideal. Hey, another strength is the national championships in Miami. So something to fight for. Explosive offense. And then weakness, penalties as well. A lot of these teams are real sons of bitches when it comes to mean and penalties. And then running the ball. Yeah, they just can't really run the ball like at all. And obviously they've been able to get a little bit of traction from their freshman running back, as I'm completely faulting his name, as I have to pull up my own statistics here. Pringle's been solid, starting to get the reps, 6.2 yards a clip. So we'll see if he's that spark to get a run going in the playoff. All right, 2 more brief previews. Here it is. Let's talk about JMU, Oregon. Noah Whittington, running back, Malik Benson, leading wide receiver, and then Bryce Boetcher, leading the Big Ten in assisted tackles, over 100 tackles on the season. Dude, just Kirby out there at linebacker. Obviously, their strengths are going to be speed, athleticism, turnover margin. They take it away more than they give it away. And that's not good for a team, or for the other team that's going to be playing as a 20-point dog. Weakness, competition. They haven't really played anyone. And everyone they've played, it's been pretty close, especially for a team that does not pass. Bottom 25 in the country in pass plays this year. You say, well, they're top 5 in completion percentage. Great. Let's see it. Let's see it in the big boy realm, because they also got pushed around against Indiana. Weakness, also opposing red zone conversion percentage. They're allowing teams to score at a higher clip. They're not keeping them out. And then that passing game, just talked about it. Want to see it tested. Haven't been a Dante Moore supporter all season. James Madison, names to know, because you probably don't know anyone. Lonzo Barnett, the third, does it all. Dual threat quarterback. Dude's great. In a high-powered running attack, Wayne Knight, over 1,300 yards rushing. And then their linebacker, Trent Hendrick. Listen, they're going to need to run the ball. That's one of their strengths. Stopping the run as well. It's a top 15 stuff rate. Top 15 yards allowed. So if they're able to get physical, if they're able to milk the clock, just drag out possessions, keep Oregon in more than a mid-range to go situation in all downs, this could get weird. Like I said earlier, they pushed Louisville to the buzzer on the road. They're not one of those G5 teams that wants to get in a track meet with you. They want to make it ugly. Weakness, obviously, competition. G5. Sun Belt. Not even the good G5, the AAC. This is the Sun Belt, folks. And, this is the exact time where we'd like to see Oregon attempt to get out of their comfort zone and pass more, because JMU hasn't been tested in the past game, and that's where a weakness could be if they're so strong against the run. Last but not least, Ole Miss versus Tulane rematch, 45-10 earlier in the year. Kawan Lacey, running back, over 1,100, 1,200 yards rushing, led the SEC. Or no, he didn't. Ahmad Hardy did. Second in the SEC. Deuce Alexander, speed, deep threat, wide out. Centurion Perkins, just a freak at linebacker. Strengths, pass explosiveness, Trinidad Chambliss, Deuce Alexander, air it out. Scoring offense, one of the top in the country. And their pace, they move at the, I believe, 10th fastest pace in the country. Times between snaps. Tulane's seen this. Weakness, opposing red zone percentage conversion. And then rush explosiveness. They can give up some yards per play on the rush and the rush attack. And third weakness not listed is coaching. Obviously, Charlie Weiss Jr. came back for play calling, but Lane's gone. What's the vibe been like since he left? Kind of weird. Haven't really heard anything out of Ole Miss. He kind of took Trinidad under his wing. Just left him high and dry. So we'll see. Because Tulane has BYG, Jake Retzlaff, and Jaheim Johnson at corner. Retzlaff has 16 rushing touchdowns this year. Ever heard of it? Dude is just a do-it-all type guy. He's the Pavia no one's talking about. Because Retzlaff just absolutely gets it done. And when we look at their strengths, it's going to be him. Star quarterback, turnover margin. They take it away more than they give it away. Yeah, he's responsible for 3,500 yards total and 30 touchdowns to only 6 turnovers, 6 interceptions. O-line, they keep Retzlaff upright. Top 10 in the country in sacks allowed. Opponent's third down conversion is going to be an issue. Also defending the pass was a big problem in the first time. This team, bottom 40 in the country in pass defense. Need to find a way to limit that, but have to score this time around. It's going to be a track meet, but can they keep Ole Miss to field goals instead of touchdowns? We'll see. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. I think they can. I think there might be an upset brewing in Oxford. What a way to send the Lane Kiffin era off, huh? Boy, that would not be good. That would not be received well, would it? All right. That's it. We'll be back Wednesday. A lot covered. Love to hear your thoughts on everything that's transpired. Notre Dame, sack up. Apologize. We'll accept you back. But just remember, never bite the hand that feeds. Irish. I don't think you want to test that fighting part of the Fighting Irish. All right. That's enough. Thanks. See you Wednesday. Bye.